This video is called Finding the Determinant of a Matrix by me, Scott Krametbauer. In order to find the determinant of a matrix, the first thing we must have is a square matrix. A square matrix is any matrix with the same number of rows as they have columns. Here are some examples of some square matrices. That was a 2 by 2, this is a 3 by 3, and a 4 by 4. So how exactly do we determine the determinant of a matrix? Well, let's start with this example right here. We have this matrix, it's 2, -3, 4, 6. To find the determinant, the first thing we need to do is we need to multiply the coefficients that are on the diagonal that goes from the left to the right. So here we have this diagonal right here, 2 and 6. So we multiply those together. Then we subtract the coefficients on the diagonals that go from right to left. So here we have 4, -3. We subtract 4 times the -3. Well, 2 times 6 is 12. 4 times the -3 is a -12. So we've got 12 minus a -12. So our determinant is going to be 24. So exactly how do we solve if we have a slightly bigger matrix? So here, let's start with a 3 by 3. It is 1, 3, -2, -3, 4, 8, -1, 0, 5. Well, in this case, we start with the same thing, the diagonals that go from left to right. So our first one is 1 times 4 times 5. Now next, we'll go here, and we have 3 times 8 times a -1. And then lastly, we have the -2, -3, and 0. So -2 times -3 times 0. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to find the diagonals that go from right to left. So our first one is -1 times 4 times a -2. And again, we start to subtract those. So the next one is -3, 3, and 5. So we have -3 times 3 times 5. And then lastly, we have 1, 0, and 8. So we have 1 times 0 times 8. Go ahead and do the multiplications. We end up with 20 plus a -24 plus 0 minus 8 minus a -45 minus 0. And when we go ahead and add all those together or subtract those, we end up with 33. So here we have our next example. This time we're going to do a 4 by 4 matrix. So we start with our diagonals that go from left to right. And then we have to cover the diagonals that go from right to left. You didn't think I'd fit that all on one line, did you? But I did. Now what we do, of course, is we go ahead and do the multiplication. And we get 18 plus a -12 plus 2 plus 2 minus a -8 minus 12 minus 3 minus 3. And once we do all the required addition and subtraction, we will end up with 0. So there is our determinant. Now in this one, of course, I didn't bother to take the time to go over each of the numbers. Again, I figured between the diagram and just you're being able to see it, you should have been able to figure out what those numbers were supposed to be. So now that we have finished with going over how to find the determinant, just go ahead and find the determinant of the following examples here. And lastly, yes, I did throw in a 4x4. So find those 6 determinants and let me know what you got.